Listen carefully. Because what I'm about to tell you might hurt. It might make you uncomfortable. It might make you question every decision you've made up until now. But it might also set you free. You've been living a lie your entire life. They've told you who you should be, what you should do, how you should act. You've been shaped since childhood to fit into a mold you never chose. And the worst part? You accepted it without protest. Every time you look in the mirror, you see a reflection you don't fully recognize. Because that image isn't truly yours. It's a construction of other people's expectations. You are the product of the opinions of others. Want proof? Think of all the times you've hidden what you really think for fear of being judged. Remember every time you followed a path you didn't want because someone convinced you it was the right one. And here's the worst part. You have become your own prison. You don't need anyone else to control you because you censor yourself. You've learned to wear a mask, and now you believe you are that mask. But you're not. And you know it. There's a part of you that screams in silence, that wants to break free, that's tired of living by other people's rules. But you ignore it. You silence it with distractions, with excuses, with the routine of one day after another, as if time were infinite. But it's not. And every second you keep living like this is a second you will never get back. So tell me, how much longer will you wait? How much longer will you keep being just a spectator in your own life? Because here's the truth. Life doesn't begin when you get a degree, when you buy a house, when you find a partner. Life begins when you find yourself, when you dare to look deep within and accept what you see. The good, the bad, the dark, the bright, everything. But that's scary. Because finding your true self means destroying everything you are not. And that means pain. It means letting go of relationships that no longer align with you. It means questioning beliefs you've had your entire life. It means facing your shadow. Those parts of yourself you've buried out of shame or fear. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Those thoughts that attack you at night. Those memories you try to forget. The insecurities you pretend not to have. That's your shadow. And until you confront it, you will never be free. Because here's the paradox. What you fear most about yourself is, in reality, the key to your authenticity. Your darkness is not your enemy. It is your greatest source of power. But only if you accept it. Only if you stop running. Look at yourself closely. How much of what you do is truly your choice? How many of your desires are really yours and not someone else's? How much of your life is a lie? They've sold you the idea that being yourself is dangerous, that not fitting in is a problem, that being different is a flaw. But the truth is, fitting in is the biggest trap of all. Because every time you force yourself to fit in, you move further away from your essence. And when that happens, you become weak, easy to manipulate, just a pawn on someone else's chessboard. But here's a way out. Not an easy one, but a real one. Let go of the need for approval. You don't need anyone's permission to be who you truly are. You don't have to justify your desires, your choices, your path. You don't have to be understood by everyone because most people don't even understand themselves. Think about this. The people who truly leave a mark on the world are not the ones who blindly follow the rules. They are the ones who dare to break them. The ones who defy expectations. The ones who live unapologetically for being who they are. The question is, do you dare? Do you have the courage to stop performing for others and start living for yourself? Because if you don't, you'll remain trapped in this borrowed life, in this absurd theater where you play a role that isn't yours. But if you decide to do it, if you decide to find yourself, prepare yourself. Because it won't be easy. People don't want you to change. They prefer you predictable, controllable, staying within the limits they've imposed on you. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've become strange, that you've changed. And they'll be right. Because once you find yourself, you can never go back. You can't remain the same after discovering your true potential, after realizing that you always had the power to choose, to create, to be free. So here's the challenge. Dare to look at yourself without filters. Dare to destroy what you are not. Dare to embrace who you've always been, because life doesn't start with success. Life starts with the truth, and the truth is you. And now that you know it, that you've heard it, that you've felt it, what will you do with this truth? Because here's the part no one tells you. Finding yourself is not a destination. It's a process. There's no point where you can say, "That's it, I fully know myself." It's an endless journey, an internal war between who you are and who you were conditioned to be. And every day, you will face a decision. Keep lying to yourself, or keep discovering yourself. Want to know what the biggest obstacle is? Attachment. Attachment to what you already know, even if it hurts you. Attachment to a false identity, just because it's comfortable. Attachment to people who add nothing to your life, but give you the illusion of security. And worst of all, attachment to the old version of yourself. The weak, complacent, fearful version, but familiar. Because the familiar is tempting, even when it's a prison. The question is, are you willing to let it go? Because if you truly want to find yourself, you have to die many times in life. Not physically, but mentally and emotionally. You have to let your excuses die, your fears, your limitations. You have to kill the you that was created just to fit in, and that hurts. It's terrifying. Because at first, when you destroy the false, all that's left is emptiness, and emptiness is scary, but that emptiness is freedom. Most people never fill it with their true selves. They fill it with more distractions, more external validation, more noise. They convince themselves that they're fine, that they don't need to change, and they keep spinning in circles, never moving forward, never waking up. You cannot be one of them, because if you've made it this far, if you're still listening to this, it means there's something inside you that refuses to settle, something that has been screaming for years, begging you to look beyond the theater you live in. So I'll ask you a question that will change everything. If you weren't afraid, if you didn't have to answer to anyone, if the judgment of others didn't exist, who would you be? How would you live? What would you do differently? Because that answer, the one you've been avoiding your whole life, that answer will tell you exactly who you are. But knowing isn't enough. Imagining isn't enough. You have to act. Because if you discover who you are and do nothing about it, it will be worse than never knowing. You will live with the weight of a truth you didn't have the courage to honor. And that burden is unbearable. So tell me, will you take the first step? Because after hearing this, you can't go back. You have two choices. Ignore it and continue living as if nothing happened. Or accept it and use it to wake up. To become who you were always meant to be. You decide.